So, welcome everyone to the Sports Roll Daily Fantasy Podcast. I have Matt Dangler with me in the bottom of the right hand corner, and we are ready to get started on this really nice slate because we have a lot of pitchers that we like, a few dark horses to say the least as well, and the hitters are not all that promising on this slate. A lot of the expensive guys worth rostering, they cost a little bit too much. And so we're going to work through all these different things. But first off, Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm excited about the roster we'll create here. I think we had a decent night last night. We didn't cash, but we got close to it. I think the cash line was at 146, I believe, and we were at 131 with our lineup from yesterday. So little by little, we're figuring these things out, and we're gonna improve on them all the time. And I think we're 1-4 on the season, so we've done this 5 times, and we've lost 4 times, or not cashed 4 times. But hopefully that should change starting today. So Matt, who are your top pitchers on the slate today?
Well, the first three are really the ones that jump out at you. Cueto in an incredible matchup against the Padres. The Padres are terrible. They really can't hit right-hand pitching. They're 29th in strikeout rate, 29th like what you want to target. They strike out a ton, and they are 29th in weighted on base average against right-handed pitching, which is just they're basically just a terrible team against anything that's not a lefty.
Mm-hmm.
So Cueto's been great. He seems to be back on his old talent level and settling down finally. And he's striking out people at a pretty good clip again. So he's obviously the top option. And I want to stress, if you're playing cash games, don't play anyone but Johnny Cueto. He's the best option. He's good, has the highest upside, highest floor. He's the best option. On a day where hitting isn't incredible, in cash, you should play him. Always.
Yeah.
But then Liriano's in a good matchup as well. He's a good GPP option because the Braves are also terrible. They're basically the Padres against lefties. And I think yesterday I read they had a higher strikeout rate, some higher strikeout than hit rate against left-handed pitching, some absurd stat. But they have a 26% strikeout rate and a 230 average against left-handed pitching, and that's pretty sad. So he's a good option.
Mm-hmm.
Price is always intriguing with his high strikeout upside, and then Rich Hill's another one you might want to look at, who's just got a ton of strikeout upside.
Yeah.
Price's last game was really good, even against the Astros, that are pretty solid against left-handed pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the 3 to 4 you really want to target in cash games, and then even in GPPs, any of those are 100% playable. Do you have anyone else, Faraj?
Yeah, just one more thing. Where is Rich Hill? Did he get scratched or something?
Because I don't. Scratched?
Yeah, I don't see him.
Last night.
Oakland?
Is Oakland? Who's pitching for? Yeah, he's pitching for Oakland.
He is.
Oh,
he's in the early
slate.
Yeah. I remember seeing his name, but like on the other lineup that I have for the early only slate, and I thought,
don't play Rich Hill.
Yeah, don't play Rich Hill because he's not available. But the guy that we're looking at, and accidentally I have him rostered already, is Mike Clevenger, who there are no stats on FanDuel that are readily available for him, but he has a couple of things going for him. He's 25 years old. This is his, I think, debut start with the Indians organization in baseball right now. And he's going to be brought up today, and he's going to be going up against Finnegan, who is a left-hander southpaw with the Reds. And what we're going to do probably is to target all the Cleveland bats against Finnegan, because there's just guys like Mike Napoli at first base who just hit lights out against lefties for their entire career. So that should not, like Finnegan should be a helpful cause in that sort of attacking intent that Napoli has today. But we expect the Cleveland bats to put up a lot of runs today. So in Great American Ballpark, a hitter's friendly park, that should be a helpful thing for a guy like Clevenger making his first start. What we want out of him, he has $3,000, so he's literally the cheapest pitcher we've had in FanDuel, I think, up to this moment. And he's so low priced because he is a rookie and he's making his first start and all of that good stuff. But there's a couple things going for him. He's going up against Finnegan, who should get lit up by the Cleveland bats, who have been hot on this season. I think Cleveland is still leading that division fairly easily, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. The standings here. Oh, okay, so Cleveland is 19 and 17, and the White Sox have still run away with the division, but that's still promising in a way. And I think the Reds shouldn't cause too many problems tonight. The things that I like about Clevenger is towards the end, Terry Francona has a quote in this article today saying that he has a breaking ball that he really likes, and there's velocity that he really likes as well. And so if a young guy is coming in with a breaking ball that's developed and velocity that's already developed, that's a good sign that this isn't somebody that's going to just immediately struggle on his way to allowing 7 runs and leaving the game in the third inning. So there's strikeout potential as well, because in reflecting upon his days with the AAA and AA teams last year, Clevenger said that I was pitching decent, but my strikeout percentage could have been better. So he knows that he has the ability to strike people out, and Matt alluded to earlier, outside of the podcast just now, that he has a he strikes out 9 guys per 9 innings. So basically, that's a strikeout an inning kind of rate. So if he lasts 5 innings, that's 15 points on its own, and then if he has 5 strikeouts, that's 30 points, and then if he has enough by the time he leaves the game to get the win, then that's another 12 points. So for $3,000, you're potentially looking at a guy that can put up 42 points, but he is $3,000 for a reason. He's unproven in baseball. He is a newcomer, so there might be the potential that the Reds could just go off for 15 runs today, and he could put up negative numbers just like Jose Barrios did the other night. So we have some hesitancy, but it's not enough to overshadow the fact that we really like him today on this slate, and that allows us to pick better and better bats, which is always helpful. So Matt, what do you think?
I love it. I think 3,000 is a bit too cheap. I mean, you're essentially playing Carlos Santana at pitcher, a value of the same price player as any regular moderately good hitter as a pitcher. And this pitcher has the potential to end up with 45 points fairly realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can envision a scenario where 40 points, let's say, where like you said, he pitches 5 innings, strikes out 5 guys, gives up 1-2 runs, and gets the win. That's 39 points. And that's not unrealistic. So that's an incredible return if you can get that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is very risky. We had, again, the comment the other night with Barrios, like, you lost us money. Yeah, okay. This is $1. This is one of our dollars. We're willing to hedge our bets that maybe something crazy happens. Maybe he puts up a great game, and the Indians have enough run support to get him a win.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to, in tournaments, which is a great strategy, to go against the field. This probably won't be highly popular pick, but also allowing us, since all the high-end pitching is what's going to be used today, the high-end batting isn't going to be as targeted. So if we can get some of that high-end batting, and that high-end batting goes off like an Anthony Rizzo or a Mike Trout or a Jose Bautista, something like that, we're just so far at an advantage that we have the potential to really set ourselves apart. And that's what you want to try and do with $1 tournament entry. You don't want to just kind of hope you can make the $3 back. If we have a chance like this, I think we should take it, because 3,000 is just an insane amount for a pitcher. So
Yeah.
he's been pitching deeper into games in the minors as well. I don't think he's gone under 5 innings in the start, and I don't see any reason why not to.
Yeah, but again, like, as we've both now cautioned you guys, just make sure that you're not blaming us at the end of the day, because we did outline the pitchers we actually liked, which is Johnny Cueto and David Price and all of these guys that are, $7,000 more expensive than this guy is. And there's a reason why they're expensive. It's you get the safety blanket if you have those guys. And even those stars can put up negative points at one time. Like, Matt has the famous scenario where Felix Hernandez, of all people, had a -16 night for him at one point in a couple of years back in daily fantasy. So these things happen. I mean, this is a high variance sport, so please take that into account. But moving on to catcher, do you want to go down the line like this, or do you want to move to the outfield and jump around?
We can jump around. Does anyone at catcher really strike your interest?
No, not really. There are a couple of options. I think Molina is going up against a lefty in Rusin, so that is somebody that I would look at. Molina hasn't hit a single home run this year, so I don't know if this is the game that he starts showing his power, which so far hasn't really appeared. But yeah, not a bad option to roster Molina tonight.
No, I like Molina. I also like McCann.
Mm-hmm.
Lefties against Shelby Millers has been a recipe for success this year.
Yeah.
Honestly, either of those seems fine.
Do you want to go with McCann knowing that he could put up a 0?
Yeah,
Or he could have a
I'm
home
not
run?
worried about a 0. Molina, anybody can put up a 0.
Right, yeah. So any other top choices like Lucroy goes up against Lackey, Posey goes up against Drew Pomeranz of the Padres. Uh, this is a lefty righty matchup. Is this something you're wanting to look at?
Ordinarily, yeah, because Posey's such a good lefty hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But Pomeranz, I don't know, I can't say that I know anything about him or have known anything about him ever. But he's pitched phenomenally this year. I watched the last game he pitched. I don't remember exactly who it was against. But I think it was the Mets. I think it was Kershaw. Or not the, no, I think it was the Padres Syndergaard game.
Yeah.
And I watched him pitch. He pitched so well. He struck out all the Mets. I think he ended up getting the win. Yeah, he got the win.
Mm-hmm.
But he had complete control, and I wouldn't, based on his last few performances, I wouldn't want to target hitters against him.
Yeah, and the strikeout rate is just immense. Look at this, 6
Yeah.
innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, and 60 points at the end of the day against the Cubs of all teams.
I'm not a huge fan of him actually playing him against the Giants, because the Giants don't strike out and they're a good offense, but I wouldn't blame you if you played him as well today.
Yeah. But first base, do you like Anthony Rizzo? We should just lock him up because he's
I
against
do.
the Brewers.
Nelson has struggled in his career against lefties.
Mm-hmm.
Rizzo is a phenomenal hitter in a hitter's park.
Yeah. So might as well. But any other choices you like? Like, is Big Papi a good option today against Volquez, who could maybe have a tough outing?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, Big Papi's always worth a look in tournaments because you can see his potential there. Against the last game in Houston where he had the triple, the double, and the home run. And
Mm-hmm.
that was, well, I watched that game as a Red Sox fan, and that was one of the most fun games of the season because he hit the walk-off triple, or
Yeah.
walk-off double, and the triple to send it to extras. But always worth a look, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little expensive for my liking, but in tournaments, that's not an issue.
Yeah. Are you looking at Chris Davis, who's going up against Taiwan Walker, who's a right-hander as well? Because yesterday, I think the Seattle put up like double-digit runs, and Baltimore struggled to even get up to 2 runs, I think. So Davis could have an immensely huge night.
Definitely possible. I like, again, same thing as Big Papi. Chris Davis has that limitless potential any night.
Mm-hmm.
But Walker's not a bad pitcher. I wouldn't go out of my way to try and get a ton of Orioles bats in, but yeah, definitely. He's a good option.
Every once in a while, there's a pitcher where I just kind of tell myself, like, don't mess around with this guy. Like, Garrett Cole is one of those guys who, against the Cubs, I think a couple of days ago, I wanted to just stack the Cubs against him, and then he shut the Cubs out while John Lester allowed, like, 3 runs, and the Cubs ended up losing. So Garrett Cole is one of those guys where I just say, don't mess around with him. Like, just go and get somebody else. And there's other better options as well, like Mike Napoli, as we said. The Cleveland Bats are going to be pretty, like, basically, if we had gone with Johnny Cueto, there's no universe where Mike Napoli would be not our first baseman today. So it's basically Rizzo and then Napoli and then everybody else that we said at the top of the list. For first baseman, you want to stick to the top of the list because the power is there. Because at the bottom of that list, funky things start to happen. So better to just stick with a guy like Rizzo. So we have $4,000 remaining per every player. So is this second baseman position the area where we start thinking cheap? Because this isn't exactly cheap, but I was thinking Daniel Murphy against Bartolo Colon. That is a pretty good matchup right here. And I think yesterday he had a weird game. He's actually had a weird stretch of games recently where the hits are still coming, but the power is lacking. So maybe tonight's the night against Colon, who likes to throw strikes and high strikes in the zone. He might have a huge night, but I don't think that this is the best option on the night. So who are your guys?
I like Murphy. I think that's an interesting one, especially for a tournament. He's not safe, but there's one guy that I think is pretty two guys that are heads above the rest. I like Ben Zobrist a lot.
Uh-huh.
He hits very well against righty pitching, and I think that's part of an interesting Cubs stack.
Okay.
If we can afford him, but I think my favorite is Robinson Cano.
Yeah.
He's Tillman is not amazing. He's again not a bad pitcher. I would never call Tillman a bad pitcher. He's had a good season,
Yeah.
but he has been exploited by lefties in his career. He's been overachieving a little bit based on his Sierra and his more peripheral stats.
Mm-hmm.
And Cano did that yesterday.
Yeah,
So without hitting a
31.9.
home run,
Uh-huh.
it's a hitter's park. I like Cano a lot. I would not be opposed to other options at all because second base is always such a weird one for me.
Yeah, so I like Zobrist. What are the chances that he hits a home run? Because he has hit 5. Milwaukee is a hitter's park, even though I don't think of it that way because the freaking water slide or whatever they had at the outfield level, like that always throws me off. Like I feel like parks that have lots of room in the outfield have time for amusements like that. Like the Marlins have slides and stuff, and that thing is like a fortress for like only Stanton is the guy that steadily hits home runs in that field. So Milwaukee is a hitter's park for the most part. But do you see Zobrist having a huge night?
I don't.
Okay.
I see him as a more safe play, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, the reason that I would probably prefer Cano.
Cano. Yeah, so I like Cano as well. So unless you have any like lingering doubts about Daniel Murphy and us having to absolutely roster him, I would go with Cano.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So for third base, we
What do
have
you like? Okay, let's give you the
yeah.
green light here.
Third base is weird. I wanted to say Matt Carpenter until I realized that it's some dude named Rusin who's also a lefty, so that takes him out of the lineup. Longoria is different because I think Toronto's going to put out R.A. Dickey, and this is where I wanted to get your thoughts on this. This was before I realized the genius of playing Steve Clevenger today, but and we don't need to go after Tampa Bay bats. But what do you in general think Tampa Bay is going to do against R.A. Dickey today?
I think they're going to hit him hard.
Okay.
Longoria is a really good knuckleball hitter.
Okay.
And if you give me a second, I'll find his BVP stats against Dickey. I'm not,
Yeah.
Which is, again, don't go by BVP stats except for 2 situations. Yesterday, like the Miguel Cabrera, like a huge sample size where it's clear he's got this guy's number, or knuckleballs. Because guys can either hit balls or they can't hit knuckleballs. And Longoria is one of those who can.
Uh-huh.
So he would probably be one of my top options at third base.
Okay.
I just didn't think we were going to have enough money to spend.
Yeah, no, we have money to spend.
Now that we do.
Yeah, so another guy, though, is Travis Shaw, who has been sliding a bit lately, and you can see his price drop as well. Against Edinson Volquez, I think he could have a bigger night. He did do really well yesterday. I think it was Yordano Ventura who was on the mound for Kansas City yesterday. So that was a decent outing for Shaw, who put up a 35-point night here. But today against Volquez, I think Volquez is a little bit better of a pitcher as well. So maybe this isn't a night to go after Shaw, but again, not a bad option. Jake Lamb is another guy that I like today because yesterday he was on, I think, our lineups personally, but also on the Sports Roll lineup, and he had a 22-point night with a home run. I think he keeps the home run streak going today as well against Eovaldi. But Eovaldi's one of those guys that are sneaky in the sense of like he could have a great night tonight. And Vegas, for whatever reason, has projected Arizona and the Yankees to have a 9 over-under, and this is the highest one on the slate today. And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't think tonight's the night you roster Arizona again. Maybe the Yankees, but not Arizona, especially with Shelby Miller on the mound. And I think Eovaldi is going to have one of those sneaky good nights tonight. So on the pitching end, maybe you want to think about rostering Eovaldi as well, but who knows. But I definitely wouldn't want to roster Jake Lamb here. So I'm happy if you have other options or we just settle on Longoria.
I like Longoria because it's one, again, that people probably aren't going to pay off at third base. We could get a guy who really can hit a knuckleball well, and look at it. I don't know if you went through his. I was trying to find something, but I don't know if you went through his recent games. He's been killing the ball, and I don't love to target people necessarily because they've been killing the ball, but that's pretty hard to ignore. So I would be perfectly fine with Longoria. And also, if you don't like the variants of a knuckleball pitcher, we've given other options. I really like Jake Lamb. I do think he probably continues his hot hitting ways today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've given Travis Shaw as a good option as well, but we've given other options.
Yeah, the one quick thing about Jake Lamb. So yesterday on the broadcast, I think it was Steve Berthume who said, the Diamondbacks announcer. He basically said that Lamb has he's tied for sixth most extra base hits in the all of baseball, which is impressive. That's
Yeah.
sixth. That tie is on par with guys like Nolan Arenado, who we expect to hit power home runs all the time. But if Jake Lamb is tied with that guy, then he's doing something right this season. So for 3,400, he is a little bit pricey, but a mid-tier option if you can afford him would be good here. So go after Jake Lamb. Don't take on what we said here about Uvalde having a huge night, because that's like a 10% chance. So
And I'll throw in one more cheap one, just in
Okay.
case anyone else doesn't want to pay up anything higher than 2,800. I really like David Wright today.
Okay.
This is a contrarian one. I don't know if he's going to play because he came out of the game. I think he got scratched yesterday.
Right.
But if he plays, Gio Gonzalez is a good pitcher, but his career numbers against lefties are otherworldly. And at any time you can get a guy with those career numbers against lefties for so cheap, it's a good tournament option. I would never play him in cash, especially against a good pitcher like Gio Gonzalez. But that's an intriguing tournament option that I'm probably going to have in a lineup if he plays.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're looking for another option.
Yeah, this is interesting. I usually don't like to bet on Gio Gonzalez, like against him, like target people against Gio, but he has had a weird season to start here, and so I don't think Wright is definitely a lower option, like in terms of risk. He is a high risk, high reward kind of pick here, so he may do well. Who knows?
I found the reason I'm saying I found the stats for the last season and a half. I guess 2015 and now 2016. Wright has hit with a 421 weighted on base average and a 205 ISO against left-handed pitching, which is top tier.
Yeah.
So that's anytime you can get anything like that for so cheap, it's worth a look.
So at Shortstop, who do you have on mind today? Like, we can basically target each of the top guys, but the person that I was thinking about was not Manny Machado, even though he's going up against Walker, who's a righty, so that's a little bit iffy for me. But somebody that I actually liked was, let's see, not Brandon Crawford here. Asdrubal Cabrera was somebody that I was kind of looking at, because he's going up against Gio Gonzalez. Cabrera is a guy that does make contact with the ball. He might not hit a home run today, but he does have decent contact ability. Not great outings in the last 10 games, so nothing really promising that makes you just say, like, this is the guy to go with, as opposed to Longoria, who had a steady stream of double-digit outings for, like, the last 7-8 games. Cabrera, not the case here, but I think against Gio, he can hit switch batting, so, just target the weaker side, and which would be right-handed. And I think Cabrera hits better left-handed, but against Gio, if the Mets put up a lot of runs, the Nationals could be forced to go to the bullpen pretty quickly, and then, it's a toss-up, and he can get a 2 or 3 at-bats with the bullpen, which would be really nice as well. So Cabrera was on my mind. Brad Miller, who's going to be going up against Toronto's R.A. Dickey, is somebody that's on my mind as well. But Miller has hit 5 home runs, but lefties tend to not hit too well at Rogers Stadium. But, like, Miller's a guy who can, if he doesn't have the power going, he can still put the ball in play. And with his speed, he can get doubles and triples all over the place. And that's exactly what he did yesterday at the Rogers Center by hitting 3 times and collecting a double and a triple along the way. So this is a guy that's a sneaky good pick, but this is based on the fact that the Tampa Bay Rays can continue their double-digit run output that they've been showing in Toronto. So, yeah, aside from Brad Miller, there's nobody that I actually, really am committed on at the top level.
I really like. I thought Asdrubal was a decent play. I mean, he's riskier, something you would play in tournaments probably.
Yeah.
I like Brad Miller a lot. He was my go-to option before we had money to spend.
Yeah, this is ruining everything, by the way. Thank you, Mike Clevenger.
But there is somebody that I really like at the higher end, and I think it kind of fits with our message of the Cleveland stack, Francisco Lindor. He hits lefties phenomenally. He's one of the better, if not the best, lefty-hitting shortstop on the site. And he has a 384 weighted on-base average against lefties. Cleveland has a high run total, and Finnegan is not a good pitcher.
Yeah.
So now that we have money to spend, he's an interesting option. I don't know what he's been doing lately. I never checked.
Yeah. So
But
not bad.
He's pretty consistent. He has power and speed.
Yeah. Yeah, and just an amazing defensive shortstop. I know they don't get points in FanDuel for that, but he's amazing in terms of defense. He literally single-handedly took Cleveland's defense from like one of the worst in MLB, and then after he made his debut, they became one of like the top 5 defenses in baseball.
He's a joy to watch as a player.
So I don't mind rostering him because Brad Miller. I mean, the odds are that the Rays probably won't hit double digits and run today, even if it is against R.A. Dickey. Like, I think the reasonable scenario is somebody like Steve Pearce, their cleanup guy, hits a home run or maybe a double or a triple or something, and then I think Longoria has a huge night, hopefully because of our self-interest. I hope he has a big night, but I don't think the Rays are going to do too well today, so might as well like limit our exposure to them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What do you think? Let's give you some run in the outfield. I've struggled to find outfielders that I really liked today.
Yeah. So again, like you, I prepared my kind of lineup to go with cheaper options today. So one guy that I really liked, and this is completely random, but I don't know why. Like the last time I rostered him, I had a feeling, which is not a good thing to say in daily fantasy. But this is Yasiel Puig if I can find him. So the last time I rostered him, he went off for 31 points, which was against St. Louis. I think that was against Michael Wacha. I might be wrong, but I forget who was pitching that night. But he did have a home run that day, and he had a huge outing. And this has literally been Puig's case, basically. He either hits 0 or 3 points, or he hits a home run and has a huge night. I don't know if this is the night that he has a 31-point performance again. I doubt it because the Angels have been surprisingly able to hang in with the Dodgers this past 2-3 games. But he wasn't in the lineup on Monday, so I think he has been able to like kind of figure things out for himself by sitting a game. But today's the day I think that he has a huge night against Tropiano of the Angels. But other options as well, and this is somebody that I really like, is Alex Presley here of the Milwaukee Brewers. Presley has shown a little bit of power. He can hit, and against John Lackey, he's a lefty, so against John Lackey, he should do well. Past 10, it started off promising on May 5th, but then he's kind of declined over time, so maybe there are better options given we have so much money to spend. We should be looking at the top of the list. But another person that I really enjoyed was Brandon Drury, just to mention him against Uvalde is a good option. But also Carlos Beltran is somebody that I was strongly looking at because he's a switch hitter who hasn't hit a home run in a while. Well, for him it's a while, but for most people it would be 10 games later. But I do like Beltran in this setup against Selby Miller, and yesterday he only had a single at-bat, I think, and he drove in a run. So promising sort of series in Arizona for him today to kind of round this thing off. And the thing is, the Yankees haven't won a game so far in Arizona, so if there's a night for them to do it, it would be the last game of the series against Shelby Miller. So I like Beltran, and also his teammates in the Yankee pinstripes are Ellsbury and also Brett Gardner are two guys that I'm looking at. More so than Gardner, I like Ellsbury here a lot because he's been starting to show some flashes of just contact and everything, and so against Shelby Miller, who could potentially have a bad night again, I like Ellsbury's ability to do something here.
I really like Ellsbury a lot today. I think he's definitely the best value you can get at outfield. The safest plus the highest upside against Shelby Miller.
Mm-hmm.
He would be my low tier because he's kind of verging on the edge of it.
So how about we like meet halfway and take Ellsbury and roster him, and then just only look at the top pitchers, or not top pitchers, but top hitters here, because we can literally get like both Trout and Betts, and we would be fine. So are you thinking?
I say definitely Trout.
Yeah, are you thinking Harper against Cologne is a good idea?
Kind of.
Yeah.
That would be. I was thinking Harper and Trout, to be honest.
Is there an off chance that Mookie Betts has a big night against Kansas City?
Very off chance. He's so overpriced right now. Mm-hmm. I love him. He's probably my second favorite player on the Red Sox right now.
Who's the first favorite? Pedroia?
David Ortiz.
Oh. Wait, where does Pedroia rank on that?
Probably third or fourth.
Okay.
This is hard because I love all of them, and
Mm-hmm.
it changes based on their production levels, I guess. But historically, I've liked Pedroia and Ortiz have been my two favorites for 7, 8 years since Pedroia was there, and then
Yeah.
2003 when Ortiz was there, when started being there. But I think Betts is overpriced for what he offers.
Mm-hmm.
He's not an incredible hitter. He's a great hitter. He's on pace for 25 home runs, 25 steals, which has never been done by a leadoff man.
Yeah.
And I think he offers very good upside, but in a matchup where they're not projected to score a lot of runs and there's no like clear pitcher targeting, I would take Harper over Betts.
Yeah.
Betts is just looking like he might start to cool off. He's had an incredible streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Harper in this situation, but another guy is Cespedes. Do you really want to leave him out of this outfield if we can afford him?
I would play. I mean, if it comes to Harper or Cespedes, Harper is the pretty clear option. But
Okay.
Cespedes is another good option. I think Gio Gonzalez is a good enough pitcher that
Yeah.
we shouldn't target against him.
Yeah, so I do like Trout as well. Trout, for those of you who missed it when I had him pulled up, he's going against some righty for the Dodgers named Bolsinger, who has a sky-high ERA, but I think this is going to be a decent slot for him to do well as well. I think, as I keep mentioning on this show today, that the Angels have been just sticking around with the Dodgers for some reason, and if they want to get another win out of this series, this is the night as well to target a guy named Bolsinger after Kershaw. If they faced Kershaw the night before, I think this is a good way to bounce back against a crappy pitcher.
Agreed. And one more reason I like Trout so much today is Bolsinger is just coming off the DL
Mhm.
today. It's his first start. He hasn't pitched all season, and pitchers don't tend to do very well coming off the DL. They're not
Mhm.
sharp. They don't have the same command they have after they pitch for 12, 13 games.
Yeah.
And Trout is the person to take advantage of that.
Okay. So we have $400 remaining. Any weak spots? For me personally, I think a weak spot may be catcher, but I can't force myself to like roster Posey or McCann, or Posey or Lucroy, sorry. Any of the bottom options don't really appeal to me. I think there is potential down here somewhere, like Yan Gomes might have a huge night against Finnegan, and because of like our whole money situation, this is a blessing and a curse because we might roster McCann who doesn't go off, whereas Yan Gomes, much cheaper, has like a 2 home run night in Cincinnati against Finnegan. So in some sense, like Clevenger's cost is really beneficial because we roster all these huge bats, but on another spectrum, it is kind of odd to like not pick a lower tiered option because a lot of the times whenever we've done this with a really risky pitcher, a few of the hitters don't go off. So again, this is going to be a lineup where if you followed us through this past 30 minutes or so, this thing could either net us $0 or 750. Like, I really don't think there's any in between here. And so we're going to hedge our bets on a guy named Mike Clevenger to carry the team to like at least 30 points or so in terms of pitching, and then just hope that these power bats here and contact bats are able to get stolen bases, home runs, doubles, triples, all of that fun stuff, and hopefully we have a huge night and pick up our second win of the season. So Matt, unless you have any other issues with this, I'm going to hit save changes.
Not at all. I think it's great. I think what you said is exactly right. This is risky. Don't just do this and pick the line up.
Yeah.
Just watch the video and see through our other picks because we don't want you to blame us for just looking at the lineup and choosing it.
Right.
But
so
I think what we did is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So hopefully, like we always say, unless there's a weather-related issue, which there shouldn't be. I checked the weather already. There are no weather issues. In fact, the Cleveland-Cincinnati game, you want to target righties like Yan Gomes and Mike Napoli because there's a 7-mile-per-hour wind blowing out to right field, so that could really help those guys out. So in fact, like this is literally a really good night for weather. The only other thing is like some guy is sitting today or something just randomly, then we'll have to switch them out. And if that's the case, I try to do a decent job of writing a comment below the YouTube video as soon as we make the change so that others that are watching the video at 6:20 or 30 can see that comment and switch a guy or two out. But yeah, aside from that, this is going to be our lineup, and so thank you all for watching.